This is Scott Richmond
and Arnie Sherman.
You're listening to What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 1015 FM. Arnie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Scott. I'm doing pretty good this morning. How about you?
I'm doing well. I can't complain.
You know, I love coming into the radio station on a sunny morning. You know, the love of music is universal. I was thinking about that driving over. You know, it's an integral part of our lives. And as I've traveled around the world, and I've been to almost 100 countries, as you know, music and American music in particular, there's a great love and affinity for it no matter where you go. You know, almost everywhere, on every continent, of course, except in maybe Iran or Syria.
They won't let you.
Where in those places they refer to our music as cultural aggression.
Uh-huh.
You know, and in the old Soviet Union, they used to say that. They say, we don't like American cultural aggression.
Right.
While they'd be playing Hotel California ad nauseum on the radio every single day. I can't listen to that song
Was
anymore.
Iraq the same way? Was Hussein the same way?
Yeah, the American, you know, they would bootleg it. They would bootleg it, but it was American cultural aggression. Our music, our sound, our news was considered taboo.
Were you as shocked as I was when they raided Hussein and his son's castles or palaces to see all the Western effects?
Sure. You give people money, they want our stuff. I mean, it's a common phenomena.
Right, flat screen TVs, pornography, and music.
Yeah, exactly, music. You know, but in places like Japan and China and France, Chile, South Africa, even Russia, you hear the same music and some of the same performers as we listen to here.
Yeah.
You know, and historically, I mean, you can go and as you travel around, you'll hear Frank Sinatra, you'll hear The Doors, you'll hear Beyonce. It's pretty remarkable. And in all of those places, there are jazz clubs, and jazz in particular seems to have a lot of meaning cross-culturally.
Yeah.
You know, and music in general has meaning and purpose. You know, we have anthems and theme songs and battle cries, and we play it at funerals and weddings. Most people, 20 years before they're ready to die, are thinking about what song ought to be played, you know, at their funeral, and it's our touchstones in our lives. I remember a very cute story. First time I ever went into the Soviet Union, back in the 80s, you couldn't fly in from the United States. You had to take a train. You had to fly to Finland and take a train in from Helsinki. It's God's honest truth. We're on the train, and as we're crossing the border, the train had music playing on its loudspeaker system. They started playing very loud so everybody on the train could hear it. Leslie Gore's "It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to." And I always thought that was not random.
No,
you know, it was a little bit of a subliminal theme to members of the Communist Party. It's my party and I'll cry if I want
to. Going into Helsinki.
But I've been traveling recently. Wherever I went, jazz was really sort of an important and integral part in almost every culture. And today we're lucky to have a singer, performer, school counselor, mother, activist, and local Missoula treasure, Eden Atwood, on the show.
I can't wait to meet her.
I'm pretty excited about having her join us and to talk about her life and her career and the meandering road she has taken to the studio today during her life. She's been called by a Jazz Magazine, by Jazz Times, one of the most underrated heroes of modern jazz. I mean, it's pretty profound stuff as I've done some research before she came on the show.
Right.
They've referred to her over and over again as a gifted song stylist, exhibiting a confidence that few jazz vocalists of her generation has. I mean, it's pretty heady stuff, and I'm looking forward to asking her about her stylings and what she's doing now and how does she mix her musical career and musical interest with her work as an activist. She's and a school counselor. She has an MSW now. She's working in school. She's doing voice training and music lessons with kids. She has a very eclectic level of activities that's going on, and I'm anxious to talk with her about it.
I can't wait. What a great person to have in our community. How lucky are we?
We're very lucky to have someone with her history and background and her capabilities.
So this is great. You are listening to What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO. We'll be right back with Eden Atwood. Eden Atwood on What Do You Know?
Right.
All right. This is, by the way, this is the show's we're rolling here. We're not getting fancy. How are you, Eden?
There's going to be no edits?
No,
we can edit if we say something.
No. He says that I don't.
He doesn't edit.
I like to have people on naturally. You're natural,
right? So if somebody accidentally promotes something, or
we've edited.
We have edited, but we won't for you because we know that you're
we're not gonna
always
drop
on.
any bombs.
No,
you can drop a few bombs,
right?
As long as you don't drop an F bomb or an S bomb or a.
we'll cut that.
Any other bomb.
Okay, well,
So welcome to our show.
bombs.
By the way, welcome to our show. Thank you for coming and visiting with us. You are here after hours.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what you were doing before you got here.
Lolo Hot Springs.
That's pretty nice.
Just like you remember it.
Yes.
Meaning,
It was
Old-fashioned.
Friday.
Old-fashioned.
Self-Care Friday
Yes.
at the old Lolo Hot Springs.
Pretty
they
nice.
come closer to the mic so we can hear you.
Did you? That's a step up to the mic situation.
Step up to the
At
mic.
the old town square media.
So we're
KGVO.
gonna get right into this, okay?
Okay.
We're in already. By the way.
Into what I want to talk about.
Got it.
I want to talk about. You've had more than a dozen albums over a career that's spanned 20 years.
That is true.
And I want to rewind. So back in the 90s, early 90s, you're out of college.
Not that I graduated, but
you're
gone.
out of college. I was
Where'd you go to
avoiding that
college?
part of it. Here, University of Montana.
Oh, you're a Grizz. Okay.
You're out of college.
Oh.
You have
okay.
a career in a very upward trajectory. You're on soap opera. You're Elliot Ness's girlfriend on Untouchables.
No,
you're on.
It wasn't Elliot Ness. It was one of the other ones.
One of the other Untouchables. But you had an Untouchable.
Somebody was untouchable.
Somebody was untouchable, and you touched them. Naughty. And you were on the commish. You had a recurring role on
David
the commish.
Paymer.
David Paymer. And you were
On the commish.
On the commish. And you were
He liked it.
You're performing in the Sardine Bar in Chicago, right?
The Gold Star
Gold
Sardine
Star
Bar. Only
Sardine
the best
Bar.
sardines.
It was a fantastic club. I visited the club. You're at the Algonquin Hotel in New York performing. You're doing all of that kind of stuff. The magazines, the jazz magazines are raving about you.
Are you leading up to a what happened?
No, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say what happened. I don't want to hear about the car crash or or leaving the
This is
country.
not behind the music.
No, this is
And then.
but Jazz Times is referring to you in glowing terms. You're a gifted song stylist, and you have a new approach to the classics. So really, what I'm asking you is, as we're looking forward, that's the rewind. Now up to now, we come back to now. Do you feel like you missed out on anything? Did things go the way you thought they were going to go then? I mean, what were you thinking then? What did you think would happen to you then? Right at that point when you're modeling, you're on TV, you got albums out.
The 90s.
Yeah, the 90s, the good old 90s.
Was
That
anyone
last-
The roaring
really
90s.
thinking in the 90s?
No,
No.
some people were. But you had it at some night lying in bed after you've performed, and you got all this stuff going on. It was this glowing review in the Chicago newspaper. A guy was even nervous interviewing you because you were like white hot at the time. So when you were thinking about the future, what were you thinking then? Where did you think you would be now?
Oh, right here with you two.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's so
This is
politically incorrect.
In
This
a
is how I pictured
million
it.
years, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
right.
have imagined I'd be in
Yeah,
a
really.
I
radio studio in
manifested
Missoula.
this.
Ever. Seriously. But wait a second. So going back to that time, okay, early 90s, right?
Yeah.
Mid-90s.
Can we stop saying that?
It's okay, by the way.
Long
We're
ago
all good.
and so far away.
We're all good. But you had a.
Yeah.
You
So,
were
but at
explosive.
that point in your career,
Let's hear what she has to say.
right? Yeah, we're badgering you enough.
It's like car talk of jazz.
That's right. Come on,
Yeah.
come on. Tell us. The name of the show is "What Do You Know?" So tell us what you know.
What?
What do you
That's
know?
what it's
Come
called?
on, yeah. What do you know?
I feel
So
like you sold me a different show.
No, well, I
Probably.
did. I
you
did.
kind of snookered me into this
Yeah,
one.
I snookered you. We're not going to make it any more difficult. This is the hardest question you're going to
She
get.
does have her ukulele.
You're going to get the hardest question you're going to get.
What? What?
The ukulele. Ukulala?
Ukulele. Well, I don't know. I wanted to to be a huge star.
Right.
I think anybody that doesn't have that kind of, oh geez, I hope it's as big as it can be, has the good sense to get out sooner.
Right. But you had at that point everything going. I mean, everybody that was reviewing you, people in the industry, Concord Records, all
not that goddamn. Oh, I probably can't say.
You can say that.
You can?
Yeah, you can say that.
Not that goddamn Howard Reich.
Right.
He said my scat singing has to be heard to be disbelieved.
Really?
Who's Howard Reich?
He's that son of a biscuit from the Chicago
Sun-Times?
Tribune. No, the
Trib.
Sun-Times loves me.
Yeah.
Oh. So who cares about Howard Reich?
Yeah.
Well, he was the big. He got a lot of column inches, as they say.
Isn't it amazing that mattered then? Now no one cares about newsprint. It's your blog. It's your social media presence. You can be faceless, nameless, but if you have an audience online, you've got everything.
Right. So you wanted to be a big star. I mean, that's completely understood. You're in your early 20s. All this thing is going your way. So now, are you satisfied with how things turned out? I'm not going to ask you I'm not going to say what happened. Are you satisfied? Would you have done something differently than you did?
I did everything that I was capable of doing at the time.
Right.
I had my father died when I was 19, and that was very tough.
Right.
It was a very sudden death, and it was a traumatic one, and I moved to Chicago a week after he died.
Right.
I left.
For our listeners, her father's Hub Atwood, who was arranger composer for folks like Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole and
Harry James.
Right. Just wrote a song that Eden recorded and Frank recorded and others called No One Ever Tells You. And we were just chatting that Seth MacFarlane, who is now launching his record career, put it on his first album, that song. It's a great song.
But let's go back. You're 19 years old or whatever. You were 19. Your father passes away. Then
I moved right to Chicago. I had a friend that was moving. We were both in the drama department at University of Montana, and he was older than me and graduating, and I was kicked out of the drama department. Randy Bolton.
You.
I haven't forgotten, Randy. If you're tuning in, I remember.
He's in. He's a listener.
I know he is.
I'm sure he's listening right now.
I love him. I learned so much
Keep going.
from him.
So you get kicked out of the drama department. You go to Chicago with your friend.
Yeah.
You're 19 or 20? What are you?
I'm 19.
Okay.
And I get a job waiting tables. At this point, I thought I was going to be an actress. That's what I first thought. I thought I was going to act and maybe do musical theater. I didn't grow up. I always grew up singing jazz and learning jazz tunes, but I didn't think, oh, I'm going to be Sarah Vaughan. I thought Barbra Streisand. I thought Liza Minnelli.
So it was a combination like jazz and cabaret kind of singing.
It was more like that. That's what I had. That was my avenue. That's what I had available to me growing up, mostly in Butte. I had musicals. That's what I could participate in.
Right.
But so many of those songs, I was in Guys and Dolls. I was in Anything Goes. That's what I still sing a lot of those tunes.
Well, they're great songs. I mean,
Right.
great songwriters.
Why did you go to Chicago, though, versus go to New York or L.A.? What was the...
Because my friend was going there. It was just opportunity. Right. And it turned out to be great. That was a great place for me to go.
Sure.
Great music town and a great music town at that time.
And I needed an anchor. I wasn't ready to be in New York City. I would have figured a way, but...
Right.
But I had somebody to be with, and so I got a job waiting tables at Tony's Cucina Italiana.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Up on Fullerton around Western.
Sure.
And they happened to have a wonderful singer, Rachel Lee, who sat in with, what was that? I think it was the King Fleming Trio. And Rachel Lee was diabetic. She has since passed, but she had also a penchant for B&Bs.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes she would spike a high blood sugar, and she would sit out a few tunes. And I happen to know a few of her tunes because I would learn tunes. My father would play tunes when I would visit him in Memphis, Tennessee, where I was born. And he would teach me little tunes. I'd sing Melancholy Baby and I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And all kinds of tunes. And so she would play tunes and I would hear it and I would go, oh, I kind of know that tune. And I'd hear it one time and I'd know it. I'd have it. And I was just always around it. So then, it'd be a slow night and I would say, can I sing?
Yeah.
And something sort of magical happened. I would get to sing and I would feel like, oh, there's my dad right there. I would feel him back again because I was hoping that I would dream about him or I would have some sort of feeling like he wasn't, ripped away from me so fast and so aggressively and painfully. And I felt him again. And then I felt something, come alive in me that I didn't know was as important as it was. Mm. My mother knew that I had talent. She was a battle hymn of the tiger mother kind of mother. She forced me to play the piano and practice an hour a day with the egg timer.
I was going to ask, they were both very supportive of you.
Well, my parents divorced when I was 4 and my mother moved us back up to Montana. And then I saw my dad in the summers after that. Mm-hmm. My dad was, kind of the Mad Men style at that point in his career. So my dad was born in 1918.
Right, so.
He was an older dad, and I was the third child from the fourth wife. There were 2 more wives and 1 more child after that. So my dad was kind of the Mad Men style. He was writing jingles in Memphis by that time in his career. There wasn't a need for staff writers anymore. And he, wasn't in that echelon, I suppose, or just opportunities dried up. So he moved to Memphis. So
you're performing at La Cucina, and you're starting to get noticed, right? People are paying attention to your singing. So how did the transition happen from there to, the Sardine Bar?
Well, I decided I was going to go to the American Conservatory of Music. I would get
Good choice. Get a
little bit more serious. But around the same time, I decided I'd also get an agent because somebody said you should model because I'm tall. So,
well, that's perfectly logical, right? She's tall. Let her model.
Look, she's tall. So I did get an agent and I got some pictures taken and then I went to 1 semester at the conservatory and then I had an opportunity to go to Paris and model and it was going to all be paid for. And I thought, well...
What year are we talking about, Eden? Early 90s?
Yeah.
92, 91?
Something like that. I don't know. It's kind of a blur.
I like to know times. Keep going.
I'm not good at that. So, so something like that. Maybe 91? Mm-hmm. So I went to Paris, but I only lasted 10 days. I did a bunch of photo shoots and then I got mugged. Because I didn't know what traveler's checks were for. I thought they were just to keep you safe on the plane. So the first day I got there, I turned them all into francs.
Right.
You were a target.
Yes.
I know, right?
The young American ingenue in Paris, right?
I don't know.
Yatta, walking around your suitcase around the Champs-Élysées.
And I had my passport and all my money in my purse. And I didn't realize that the trains shut down at a certain time. And I'm underneath the Arc de Triomphe and I got mugged at gunpoint. They took all my stuff.
Yeah, right. So back to Chicago.
Right.
10 days back.
Wow. What a brutal place this Paris is.
Let's go to nice, easy Chicago.
Where I know things.
Yes.
That was your first time in Europe?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then but while I was at the conservatory, I made a demo tape and I had 3 little old tunes on it. I recorded Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me.
Good song.
This Masquerade.
Very good song.
And
because in those days, it was George Benson had a cut of it out, right? At that point,
that's correct.
Yes.
And Good Morning Heartache.
Good.
And so around this time, I started going around to clubs and saying, and also I would go to all the fancy schmancy music places, and when stars would come to town, and that's how I met Sarah Vaughan and Joe Williams, and I was young and brash and didn't know any better. So I said I met Joe Williams and I just thought he was so amazing. And so I went up to him and with my demo tape in hand, and I said, Mr. Williams, that was life altering. Here's my demo tape.
Right.
I'll come back tomorrow, give you a chance to listen to it.
Right.
And then I'll come back and you can tell me what you thought, okay?
Right. And he looked at you and said,
okay. And I did. And he said, okay. He gave me 2 pieces of advice. He said, don't sing. He asked me how old I was. I said, I'm 21. He said, don't sing Good Morning Heartache.
because you don't have any.
Clutched my pearls and I said, I beg your pardon? Mr. Williams, I've suffered. You have no idea. And he said, and don't sing unless you have to.
Oh, that one might have hurt.
I spent 10 years trying to figure out what that meant.
Oof.
But I did, I think it was the letters to a young poet advice.
Sure.
Like,
Right.
don't ask me how to be a singer.
But he was a good read of you, because I remember reading a review from the Jazz Times that said that you were often referred to as having a confidence that few jazz vocalists of her generation have. So,
And she's a presence, too, by the way. She walks into the studio. She's a tall woman.
She
Just
took
for our
over.
listeners, she's a tall woman, good looking. And she's
Really?
she's out there. So imagine going up to a Joe Williams and doing what you did. He was taken aback. He hadn't seen.
Brash.
That's good.
Brazen.
so was he one of your influences? I mean, who influenced you? Who did you listen to? And every time you listen to it, you say, I could learn something from that, or you admired it. Who
Well,
are your
it changed.
influences?
It changed over the years.
Well, it
so
should, obviously, right?
one would hope.
Yes.
So I started off sort of like when I was very young. I listened to Barbra Streisand and thought, oh my God, if you could do that, my heavens, and then certainly Karen Carpenter I thought had a vocal instrument and a control of the instrument.
Pure
that was
voice, pure sounding voice.
incredible. I thought those bell tone voices were unbelievable. Bonnie Herman in Singers Unlimited really captivated me. Mm-hmm. Then later on, when I started listening to the jazz singers, I thought people like Anita O'Day were pretty amazing. I had a very long Sarah Vaughan love affair.
Right.
And then the interesting voices and the swingers started to be more compelling to me, like Carmen McRae and Dinah Washington and Nancy Wilson. And then I started to have this sort of like who inspired who, like the genealogy of inspiration.
Sure.
So,
and there were a lot of regional people. Like there was a singer I remember, Oleta Adams. That was really, really good, but she had a sort of a niche role in all this. She wasn't a big national star as some of these, or international star as some of these others.
and not so much really a jazz singer.
No, it's a vocal stylist of contemporary music. So how do you get to Japan? You're a huge star in Japan. I mean, they love you. You're voted like the #1 jazz vocalist in Japan. How did that happen?
Well, I don't know if that's
You thought
a record made a record won a couple other records won some awards, like one of them, a couple of gold records, or gold, I guess.
Their certification.
Well, it's a big. I mean, it's a country that
this, by
loves
the way?
jazz.
When was this? We're talking about all the singing going on in the early to mid 90s. When did you first go to Japan?
So I went when I was still with Concord Records. That was my first record deal, and that was brokered by Marion McPartland.
Really?
So that was my first big deal.
Great Marion
and that
McPartland.
happened because of my mother's friendship with one of Marion's friends from Butte, Montana.
Huh.
That Montana connection.
It all
Right.
goes back to Montana.
Yeah.
And so my mother was in this women's organization called the Drama Study Club, and Barbara McKenzie and my mother,
Right.
affectionately known as Gus, were in the Drama Study Club, and my mother financed my first record,
Right.
and that got passed around Butte, and that made it into Barbara's hands, and then into Marion's, and then Marion gave it to Carl Jefferson at Concord Records, and I was at that time the youngest artist they ever signed.
Wow. So when you go back and listen to that record, do you feel proud of it, or do you say, boy, I've learned a lot since then?
Oh, well, so they just...
Good question.
As a matter of fact, I brought with me for you.
Yes.
They did a Japanese label, wanted to put out a retrospective best of the Concord years. And that is, you've reached a certain stage of your career.
Right, a certain maturity of career when they do a retrospective.
Correct.
And you're still alive.
Yes. You're on a statin for your cholesterol when people start putting out the retrospectives.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and I found out about it a little bit. Like, they hired out an agency to try to find some stock photos of me.
Right.
And this woman, who is now my Facebook friend, hi
Right.
Helen, found me and was looking for photos. And I'm like, Concord Records hasn't given me a statement in 20 years. Now they're putting out and I was kind of hot under the collar about it. And so anyway, the Concord is just allowing the licensing to happen. It's
Right.
another label that's actually brokering it, and it'll be put out worldwide. It happens in Japan first, and then 9
Right.
months from now it'll be put out worldwide.
That's exciting.
It is, but I was pissed anyway.
Right, because Concord went dormant on you like a.
Well, right, and I'm not getting any money.
Yeah, right.
So
Where are the checks?
I got a little bit of money. You better not. What are you texting over there?
No, I'm looking to see who's on Concord's label right now.
Yeah.
Well, like Cara and Allison and
Yeah. This is Concord Records.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Weren't they purchased by Starbucks?
No.
No,
No?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Concord Music. All right, keep going.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Concord
Yeah,
Music Group. Yes.
Yeah. Keep going.
Anyway, so in order to get some money out of the deal,
Right.
I agreed to provide a photo that had not been
Previously
right, published and to write the liner notes myself. So the liner notes are from me.
Good.
The cover photo is
Good.
from one of my dear old photographer friends and of a 20-year-old me
Sure.
when I first started making those records.
Right.
And I thought about it like, God, what am I going to say? Because I listened back, like Shirley Horn, one of my heroes, would talk
Right.
about her early work, like,
Right.
sort of not loving it. But it was Ira Glass who was talking about what happens when you first start off is that you have great taste and you have ideas, but you don't have craft. And the only way to get craft is to produce. And you have to produce and produce and produce and critique and produce and critique and produce. And you have to put it out there. And that's the only way to close the gap between what you imagine and what you have the potential to do and
Right.
what your execution is. And so once you get a little further down the road, you're able to look back at that early work and honor it and
Sure.
and hear it or see
Well,
it
it's
or
like
read it with
any
kinder-
art. Paintings. An artist who paints.
Mm-hmm.
His early work may be, more symbolic or more, in a frenzied
Emblematic.
pace, but it's still part of a body of work.
But I also appreciate the earnestness
Sure.
of it.
Right.
There's a great
I mean, listen to early Sinatra, for example. His voice is different, but he has a lot of passion in his.
By the way,
recording.
we're on What Do You Know? We're talking to Eden Atwood.
So what I want to hear, you're sitting here with a ukulele in your lap.
Yes.
I think that's what it is. And
astute observation.
it's a small guitar. And I
Four
was
strings.
hoping that you would do a song for us so we could hear the more
the song stylings.
the more mature song stylings
Yes.
of Eden Atwood.
Everything is done at least a fourth lower than it previously was.
But that's good too. So do you have a song picked out?
Indeed.
Okay, what are we going to do for us here?
First,
Arnie, let's
First
use
and
your
only?
mic and let's.
use your mic. Use my mic for the uke and the other one for your voice.
I always like the uke, just a touch out of tune. I think it's more approachable that way.
Okay.
So I won't bother retuning it.
Good.
Johnny Mercer's Dream. Yeah. This is one of those that should I screw it up ever so slightly? If it's charming, we keep it. If it's not charming, we redo it.
If it's not charming.
As I said, we do edit.
Dream when you're feeling blue. Dream, that's the thing to do. Just watch the smoke rings rise in the air. You'll find your share of memories there. So dream when the day is through. Dream and they might come true. Things never are as bad as they seem. So dream, dream, dream.
All right, all right, all right.
Oh, beautiful.
I don't think our listeners could see
No.
Scott hooling around the room. You know, he just couldn't resist dancing around to that song.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Ooh,
Thank you.
it's been-
Thank you for doing
Oh my
that for us.
gosh. What are we going to do now?
We're going to hold off on him. We're going to give her a little break here.
We're all hot and bothered here.
No. We're gonna take
I am.
Bothered.
I know
She
you're
got
hot.
us.
Well, you were dancing.
I
You were
was.
hooling around the room.
Again? That was
We're
beautiful.
going to do another. It was perfect. I want to jump around a little bit. You're giving music lessons. You're working with young people now and teaching them the craft of music, right?
I do.
What's it like? What's it like now imparting your wisdom to a young generation?
Oh, well, I love that. I mean, it's part of what I've been teaching now for almost 20 years, and I've learned a lot about what it means to get out of the way and to listen and to be encouraging and to be open to different pathways of music expressing itself through human beings and what it means to develop a voice and what that means metaphorically and what that means literally.
So what's the most surprising thing that's happened to you? You've had somebody walk into a lesson and surprise you, right? It's had to have happened in 20 years. What's the most surprising thing that's happened? Do you have somebody walk in that didn't look like they could, that didn't fit the voice they had, or there's someone that came in that sounded...
No, it's about what happens in terms of personal transformation when somebody finds out what they're about and how they develop as a human being. That's the most exciting and rewarding part of it. When somebody really connects with a lyric, and the song is right and the lyric is right, and they're able to have a transformative experience where they have that experience of putting...
Where they have to sing.
What happens if
Right?
What happens if you're working with someone? What happens when you work with someone and it doesn't happen? How do you deal with that? There are people who can't carry a tune like me.
But that doesn't bother me. I don't worry about that.
You don't worry about it. You just
Nope.
you keep working with them.
I would much rather listen to somebody who is feeling it than who is
Carrying a
all
tune.
the other-
Well, then you're going to love Scott and I because
not
we
bad.
Really
you're
feel
going to love
it.
me because we really feel it, but we can't sing worth a damn. And
I
we'd love
sing in the
to.
shower and I feel something.
You'll feel something. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, but I
it
feel moved
still
enough.
qualifies.
I agree. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I was going to say. It's like it's not about prowess and it's not about skill level. It's just about, do you feel it? It's coming out of you.
It's coming out of you.
It's coming out of me.
I don't want to hear any
Oh my
more
God.
about that.
By the way, this is 8:00 in the morning on Sunday. But hey, there's no
Eyes on the road, people.
That's right. Do not.
get up. Go to the bathroom.
Do not take what Scott
Take a piss,
says.
go back to
Do
bed.
not take what Scott says literally.
Did you wake up? I thought you're not up now. You definitely are. Wait a minute. Okay, so now this is great. I want to go back to something that Eden said.
Okay.
Okay, because the Joe Williams thing is like you sing because you have to.
Right.
Okay, but teaching is a form of that too, because you're helping others find that, right? You're guiding them. And you said something really important. You said getting out of the way when it's time. What does that mean? Talk about that.
Well, so a few years ago, I went back to school and I got my Master's of Social Work. So now I have a day job, and my day job is working with kids who have experienced a severe emotional disturbance. And I work in a high school. And I have a...
Go closer to the mic. I need to get the mic closer to you. Your levels are not good.
Tell me about it.
Now you're back.
So, kids who have experienced a severe emotional disturbance, part of getting a Master's of Social Work with a clinical focus, so essentially becoming a therapist, is the process of going through your own stuff so that you are clear enough to work with clients and not have your stuff get triggered and mixed in with their stuff.
You won't be able to provide therapy then if it does.
You cannot provide therapy successfully because what you wind up doing is providing therapy for yourself and not being aware of that. And you can really damage people that way. So it really is a very serious undertaking. It's a sacred oath that you take to continually be checking yourself to make sure that your stuff is not leaking into your clients' issues, that you're remaining distinct and intact so that you can see them clearly. So that's that process of getting out of the way,
right?
Making sure that your stuff. So I can hear someone sing and be like, "Oh, I've got the perfect song for you." Is that the perfect song for them?
Right.
You know,
right. Or is it your perfect song that you want?
That's the song I really want for them. So, and sometimes people come in and they really want me to do all the choosing. And they will insist that, I don't care, you choose.
Why is that?
I don't care, you choose. I don't care, you choose.
Are they trying to take themselves out of the decision and taking or owning it?
Do you find you're using some of the same skills in therapeutic counseling in the schools as you are when you're working with students?
Absolutely, and I always was.
Yeah. So it's a good. And do you enjoy one better or the other, or are they on the same plane for you?
They are different experiences. You know, the kids I work with musically come from quite a bit of privilege. So, you know, being able to afford, you know, $60 an hour voice lessons, that is real privilege.
Right.
My clients, by and large, do not have that kind of privilege.
Sure.
And that is very different. I was sitting in the hot springs today with one of my therapist friends, and whose daughter I happen to teach and adore, who is really musically gifted, and so I see so much of myself in her. She's fun.
Did you tell her that she should go to Paris and get robbed so she could have a great experience?
Well, yes, of course. I don't want to rob some young person of a good story.
Good.
You got to have something to talk about when you're being interviewed.
Right.
But one of the things I thought about my mother, you know, I had one of those mother-daughter button heads all the time kind of relationships. But one of the things that I really was thinking about my mother was, man, she knew I was talented, and she didn't care if we fought about it, or if we didn't get along, or if I was mad or hated her. She was going to make sure I practiced and make sure that I had a musical education, and she provided every opportunity she possibly could for me to have time and experience and lessons with music. And because of that, I have something now that I am so utterly grateful for, that has saved my life a million times and will a million more times.
Right.
And that is a privilege that I have, that she made sure I had.
Good. That's good.
And I'm super grateful.
So you're a school counselor.
I'm not a school counselor.
Excuse me.
That's a different job.
Right.
They make more money than me.
Oh, well, we have to do something about that title change.
Tell me about it.
So you're doing counseling.
I'm a therapist.
You're working with a students who are interested in in improving their singing and their musical talent, right?
Yep.
You're a mother to Ben. You have a son that probably takes up a lot of your time as well.
A 12-year-old whirlwind.
Right, 12-year-old whirlwind, and you got a double album that's going to be released worldwide. Let me ask you this:
It's not a double album.
It's not a double album?
No.
Oh, it's just
a retrospective. Of 4.
Okay, so you have a retrospective that's going to be introduced worldwide. What happens if that takes off?
It's a jazz record.
I understand that. I understand that, but there may be something about. There are some jazz performers
that be included in a television.
Yeah, when you're feeling blue.
When you're feeling blue.
Okay. But what happens if you get the phone call and says, "Hey, we want you in New York."
Slow-mo. Look, we've got a gig for you.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you perform here.
Your song's being included.
You do musical theater here. You perform in lots of events regionally. But what happens if that happens to you? Do you say that's nice, but that's I'm beyond that now, or do you?
I've taken a vow of poverty.
Okay.
And my vows are
We're not getting it. She's not leaving Missoula.
They're very important to me. No,
you don't tell me you're going to cross that bridge when you come to it.
Honestly, I haven't even considered it.
Okay.
Well, you do travel out of Missoula from time to time, don't you? Do you go?
Yes, I'm going to Las Vegas with Ben on spring break.
Wonderful. Where are you staying?
Golden Nugget.
You're kidding.
There's a clear slide that goes through a Shark Tank.
Really? Oh, yes.
That's right.
Someone just went there.
No, Golden Nugget's a nice property. It's downtown, whatever.
He's a Steve
But I want to get back to this other issue, Eden.
Yes.
What happens if you start getting the calls that some people, the people listening to it, they want you to go to Tokyo, they want you to go to New York, a club in L.A. wants you to perform? Do you say yes?
My first responsibility is to Ben.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
That's cool.
And then you take him out of school, you put him on the road, and
we're going to L.A.
Ben, we're going to L.A.
Yeah.
You always wanted to see L.A.
Parental duties take primacy here.
Say
correct?
Again?
Your parental duties and your responsibilities to your family are the most important thing. In a sense, are you passing the torch down? I mean, your parents kind of took care of you in that way, right? To make sure that you had not to make sure that whatever with music, right? And your talent to help you realize that, to give you all the opportunities to realize that. You were talking before about your mom.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they did do that. My mom did.
It's a different type of caring for a child, right?
But I'm into look, see, if there was some wonderful thing like that and it provided an opportunity for Ben.
Sure.
Then I would discuss.
So under the right circumstances,
I would discuss that with his dad, and I mean, we talk about things that unschooling kind of opportunities. Ben is a cyclist, and his dad cycles as well. So if that
talent,
they might take 4 months and cycle across Europe at some point. That scares me to death personally right now, but we'll see if that will expand his horizons. I'm open to that. If I have an opportunity where I still have time to give quality of myself to Ben, and I'm not just going. I don't really see that happening.
Right.
I imagine something a little different, like Ben gets to be about 18, 19, 20. That maybe I have a little more expansiveness in my choices, and I can think about something else. But I'll tell you one thing: I'm not sure I can ever live in a city again.
Right.
Because I've lived in a lot of cities. I've lived in New York. I've lived in Chicago. I've lived in L.A.
You lived in Tokyo, for 3 months?
No, I didn't live there for that long. I lived in Singapore and Hong Kong and Bangkok and Shanghai. Those were like hotel gigs.
Right.
I didn't mind living in like 5-star hotels and
Oh,
That's
nice.
nice.
my laundry done. I really like
When you were performing in those markets, was it to locals or was it to expats that were visiting or Americans or Europeans that were visiting?
Yeah, it's travelers. I mean,
Travelers.
It's like hotels, and they have a shishi bar, and
Right.
it's not, and it's
Lost
not
in
really
translation.
It's a little lost in translation kind of a vibe, but it can be a lot of fun when you're with the right cats.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah,
part
sure.
can be fun, and
Sure.
it was definitely an eye-opening experience to be in other places in the world.
And how were the quality of the musicians you were playing with in those venues?
Tremendous.
They were good.
Yeah.
That's a good gig.
Yeah, those were good gigs.
By the way, you did a lot of this stuff, when you're younger, and it's interesting. So now you're talking about you're a parent and you're raising a child, and that's where your priorities are. But to Arnie's point, when Ben's older, and then this is a gift you can always go back to. This is something you have that you can always, it goes
that's
to another
the nice
level.
thing about jazz is that it's the feeling in the lyrics. It's not the the vocal acrobatics or any of that
Right.
sort of stuff. So you don't have a shelf life like you do if you're an opera star or if you're a pop.
Right. I mean, look at Tony Bennett. What could be 90, coming on 90, and still performing, and still sounds, it's different, but still sounds great. You still want to hear him do the old classics. Do you have another song for us?
Well, I want to ask before we go there. I want to ask you.
You only going to do one for us?
You know what's interesting though? Before, like when you started out, there weren't as many avenues. It was harder to get the ear of a A&R guy or a record guy or a producer. You really had to work to do that. Now, while the music business has shrunk, there's so many more opportunities for young, talented musicians through this show or that show,
Right.
or America's Got Talent or American Idol. And
Right.
how do you feel about that? Like, do you watch those programs and do you see some of the talent there? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting. I watched a little of
AGT, The Voice,
AGT.
America's Got Talent.
Oh, you're funny with the
Am I? Well, you
initials.
know why. Yeah.
Okay. No, the other one, the American Idol one.
American Idol. With,
So I watched that. I watched that back in the day a little bit, and I watched some things that I thought were thrilling, like when Fantasia Barrino was on, and kind of that just like gut wrenching, leave it all on the stage, like risky singing, like because of where she came from, and I thought that was thrilling. I don't watch it anymore, but I did see it the other day, like 40 minutes of it. And I watched Harry Connick Jr., who I really respect as a musician, and I watched him applauding and clapping for things, and I listened to him giving critiques, and I thought, like, oh, so interesting how much he has to dumb down what he says, because so he gave a critique and said,
Right.
oh, it was more complex harmonically, and I was like, oh, the minute he says it's more complex harmonically,
it really means
99%
To
of
tune out.
well, 99% of the people who heard that sentence didn't know what that meant.
Sure.
Right.
Jennifer Lopez might not have known what that actually meant.
Probably not.
It's a different language.
Right.
I mean, it's like if a doctor was saying something to you, you might have no idea what the doctor's actually saying. Or, that's if you don't have like real music education to know what complex harmony means,
right.
that is a different language.
Well, he, like you, started out very early and came from a
Right.
musical family and was playing piano and writing compositions when he was in his teens. So he can say that.
Yeah.
With authority.
Yes.
Yes.
But I don't think the problem with shows like that is that when I have young people come for lessons, they don't have a sense of what it takes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So when they see somebody who maybe accompanies themselves, they don't have a sense of how long it takes to become good at something. 10,000 hours to mastery means nothing to them. Like that number means nothing. There's no, so they get frustrated quickly, and it really.
I think it speaks to the fact that you got to put the work in,
Right.
all the work, the hours and hours and hours. What do they call it? Wood chopping? You got to, right?
Shedding, wood shed.
Wood shedding.
Yes.
Wood chopping is it's a different thing.
But so that, but you
Still
have
important.
so important. So wood shedding, you have to put in your time, because that's what gives you the experience, the frame of reference, the knowledge.
How old is the oldest student you work with? Have you worked with somebody, retirees who want to learn?
Absolutely.
So you would take Scott as a
I think I should.
Yes, I think.
I've heard a few things that I'm concerned.
Well, yes, we're going to work on your singing skills.
Can we? Well, I could. What do you want to do? Let's do a duet.
Melakalikimaka?
Nagila.
We're going to edit this right out of the show.
No, we're not, Arnie.
Yes.
I know that song.
You do know that song. I know that.
I know by heart.
I bet you do.
What, Harvey and Sheila? Hava Nagila. I'm sorry, I got confused.
What? So Missoula's
We'll start a klezmer band.
Oh, God.
We'll be the Klesbos.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a cross between the Indigo Girls and.
Yeah. And,
Sally.
yeah, right, yeah.
All right, wait a minute. So let's talk about Missoula for a second, because this is where you make your home. Mm-hmm. Are you impressed with what's going on in terms of more music coming here? There's more investment in venues like the Wilma. I mean, Nick's done a phenomenal job in
I like it.
in improving that, and the sound and the acoustics and the top hat. And what are you thinking? How do you feel about being in? I mean, it's the music capital of Montana,
Right.
Missoula.
Yeah.
Of Montana.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
Primarily because Eden's here.
The music
We have
capital of
Eden
Missoula.
Atwood.
Right,
But
exactly.
that's true. But that is true. A lot of musicians are starting to make Missoula their home because they come here, they may tour through here, and they want to be here. You're laughing.
He is not.
No. Are you gonna help us close the show with another song?
Hold on, we got time on it, Arnie. We have 48 minutes. Well, we're good.
Well, we have 48 minutes.
Well, no, not more.
We're only 48 in.
Oh, okay.
We got a little more time.
Okay.
With Eden Atwood.
Hold your horses. He's hungry.
No.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning.
All right.
No. We're good.
So
He needs a bagel.
you need to, not here.
Not here.
Do you miss traveling?
It's
by the way?
round bread. It's nothing but round bread.
Here it definitely is. I didn't say that. No, I didn't say.
Yeah, that's coming
Yeah,
out.
be careful.
Yeah. It could be a sponsor.
Would you? Right, they could be. Would you like to leave us with any words of wisdom? Parting shots.
Parting shot on somebody.
You're delightful.
I mean, we could have
you're a great
hours of
guest, by the
conversations.
way.
We haven't even gotten into other artists that you find interesting. Playing the game of Joe Williams versus Brooke Benton.
Brooke Benton.
Brooke Benton. That's a good reference, by the way.
I don't know who Brooke Benton is.
Yeah, Rainy Night in Georgia used to, a Chicago guy. He did that before.
There was a very famous direct.
Or how about this? Joe Williams versus Billy Eckstein. That you'll know.
Joe Williams.
Yeah, you're a Joe Williams fan, right?
Yeah.
Joe Williams had a huge resurgence in the 80s because he did like a whiskey, Canadian Club whiskey print campaign.
I just heard him
he did
today.
The Cosby Show. He did the Cosby Show.
I was listening to the Sirius.
That really bummed me out.
Yeah.
You know what bums me out, and what Arnie and I were talking about before, is Gary Shandling's passing. I don't know how familiar you are with him, but boy, did he open the door for television in terms of The Sopranos. I mean, all this great TV that came out in the 90s and then some, it was because of
Well, she was
guys
busy
like,
performing. She didn't watch
She was on
any of it.
TV. She's on the commish. She was doing good TV in the 90s.
Yeah, with David Paymer.
With David Paymer.
I love David Paymer.
Yeah, he's a great
what
actor.
character did David Paymer play? God, he's a character.
With Billy Crystal and the two brothers.
Oh, yes.
In the movie. Remember that movie?
What was that?
Mr. Showbiz. Mr. Saturday Night.
Oh, no,
Mr. Saturday Night. That
Right.
was
That's the male
Mr.
beaches.
Saturday Dance.
That's
Yeah,
the male
Bette
beaches.
Midler and
Yes.
anyway.
So you're going to leave us with another song?
You keep saying that.
I know. I
She
want to
doesn't
hear
wanna
you
play.
sing one more. Come on. Our listeners will be begging for it.
Elephants. How about some scatting? No, how about just some?
I don't do that.
You don't scat anymore?
When Louis came home to the flat, he took off his coat and his hat. He looked all around, but no wifey he found. He exclaimed, "Where can Flossie be at?" A note on the table he spied. He read it just once, then he cried. It read, "Louie dear, it's too slow for me here, so I think I will go for a ride. Meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair. Don't tell me the lights are shining any place but there. We will dance the hoochie coochie. I will be a tootsie wootsy if you will meet me in St. Louis, Louis. Meet me at the fair." The clothes that were hung in the hall were gone. She had taken them all. She took all the rings and the rest of his things, the pictures that hung on the wall. What? Moving? The janitor said, "Your rent is paid 3 months ahead." "What good is this flat?" said poor Louis. "Read that." And the janitor smiled as he read, 'cause it said, "Meet me in..." It's a sing-along, boys. My mic is down. "Meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair. Don't tell me the lights are shining any place but there. We will dance the hoochie coochie. I will be a tootsie wootsy if you will meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair."
Thank you, Eden Atwood.
Eden Atwood.
Scott, do you know who did that originally?
Who?
What movie that was from?
I do not.
I think it was Judy Garland did it. Meet me in St. Louis.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
Was it Meet Me in St. Louis?
Yes. Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
beautiful. What a beautiful song.
Eden, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Can we ask you to come back again and talk about more music insider
Talk about
stuff?
everything else.
Can I be an honourary tribal member?
Yes, absolutely.
Only if you'll perform. You'll sing.
Yes, you can.
Latkes and ukuleles?
Yes,
Latkes. Hey,
Ukulakes?
that's a good name for a record.
That is.
Ukulakes?
Your next release, Latkes and Ukuleles by Eden Atwood. Thank you, Eden, for being on the
Eden,
show.
you're
We
a lovely
appreciate
guest.
it.
Come back anytime.
Thanks.
We loved having you. All right, that's What Do You Know on KGVO. Arnie and I will see you next week. See you then, Arnie.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to What Do You Know?
I can't wait for the next show, Scott.
I'm excited too, Arnie. If you'd like to suggest a guest, send me an email at scottrichmond@townsquaremedia.com. We'll see you next week. And thanks for listening to Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290, 1015 FM, and newstalkkgvo.com.